Hey everyone, Richard Gibbens, Executive Director for SWMLS, and today I'm going to go over one of my classes that I call Practical Applications of AI. So this is probably going to be about 30 minutes or so, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by talking about kind of the history of computers, and I do that to help you understand the way computers actually work, and so to help you understand they're not just like this magic box, right? And I do that because it helps you put you in the right frame of mind of how to prompt AI to do things for you. And then the second part of the class, I'm going to actually bring up ChatGPT, and I'm going to give you some real practical examples of things that you can use on a day-to-day basis, both as a realtor and then just in your regular life as well. So, without further ado, let me get everything pulled up here. All right. So first we're going to go through the presentation here, and the main thing I want to do here is I want to bring all the talk about AI out of the clouds, right? I kind of want to bring it down to that street level view and help you understand it and understand how you can use it. So one of the things I want to point out just right off the bat is that every single slide in this presentation has a different background. Previously making a PowerPoint, that would have been a lot more work because for every single slide you're digging through Google Images and you're trying to pick the right one, and that one's not quite right, or so on and so forth. But every single background image in this presentation was generated by the Microsoft Bing AI. If you just go to bing.com, and they have their image generator on there for you. And just down in the bottom of each one, you can see the prompt, and it's going to tell you what I typed in to get that background. So the first thing I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time giving you a little background about the computer and help just to demystify it a little bit. So if there's any recovering computer science majors or developers in the room that are watching this, I realize this is an extreme oversimplification, but it helps me prove my point. So there, it is what it is. But like this tweet here alludes to, computers are basically a rock that we flattened, put lightning inside of it, and tricked it into thinking. So what I'm going to go through and kind of prove that to you. But first I want to say, has anybody ever felt like this? So the comic here, what I'm trying to do is really simple. It shouldn't be hard. Other person says, all computers are just carefully organized sand. Everything is hard until someone makes it easy. Maybe I should turn this one back into sand. And then they respond, I'll find a blowtorch. Funny, relevant XKCD here. But the phrase I want to focus on here is that everything with computers is hard until someone makes it easy. Because computers really are just carefully organized sand and rock. And we laugh about this, but it's actually true. Computers essentially start as rocks or sand. They're primarily made up of microchips and circuit boards that are made up of silicon, which is derived from silica rock. It's actually something that's often found in quartz. This is not to be confused with silicone, which is a byproduct of this process, but that's that rubbery plastic substance you see with like armbands and cooking utensils and a lot of other uses. So silicon is what makes up a microchip. So we take silicon and gold and other materials, and we organize it in a very, quite frankly, complicated way. So this is what a microchip looks like under a microscope. And this is how your sand and rock starts to become a computer. So silicon is molded into channels, and these channels take electrons to different places to transfer data and complete those calculations. And you'll see things like right here, it's just kind of a channel with 2 points on it, right? And this is basically just creating a switch. So moving to the next step, it's a simple switch. You'd have open is off, closed is on. So each one of these circuits, like we were just looking at, is like a light switch. It either gets turned on or off, which tells something on the other side of that channel what to do. And then from there, each level just builds on the one before, getting more and more advanced and able to accomplish more things. So this is where I was alluding to with that comic of everything is complicated until somebody makes it easier. So computers have built on themselves over time. So you had the single switch, and then you had six switches. So the one in the top right here, when you have 6 switches together, that's called a byte. And then from there, you get even more complicated circuits. Like this is actually a circuit matrice. And the magic of computers is really just increasingly complicated math being done at increasingly faster speeds. Now, note in the top right here where you have these zeros are off and ones are on. This is called binary code. And this is what circuits use to turn, or computers use to circuit on and off. So this is what binary code looks like when it translates to something we can read. This slide is actually redundant. The title of the slide is How Computers Talk, and this is the binary code translation of what it takes for a computer to read the 3 words, How Computers Talk. So this type of translation is what happens to change what a computer is being told to do into how a human understands it. Now, when computers first started, everybody programmed essentially in binary code, but of course, humans can't read zeros and ones. So as the switches got more sophisticated, so did computer languages. This is actually a screenshot of what's called assembly code. This is one of the earliest programming languages, and it was the first real attempt at taking binary code and translating it into something that is human readable. And then from there, assembly code built on top of that was more various languages. So here on the left you have C, which was a pretty early programming language. On the right you have Java. That became around in I believe the late 90s, and it was popular throughout the early 2000s. But even these are considered old school programming languages now as we move into things like Python or other new programming languages. So every one of these programming languages is essentially just another translation layer building on top of the ones before it. So almost every one of these eventually make their way back to assembly or binary code at some level, and then that is what gets to the computer. So the point I'm making here is that when programmers and developers, when they are writing these programming languages, they have to tell the computer every single step of what to do. Because at the end of all that programming, all the computer is doing is turning switches on and off. That's it. So the message to learn here is when you're starting to deal with AI is that you have to think about those steps. Computers are only good at doing exactly what you tell us to do very quickly. So to expand on that some, I'm actually going to bring up the first prompt of the day. So I asked ChatGPT, please explain in layman's terms the steps it takes for a computer to ingest, calculate, and display a simple function such as 2 plus 2. So don't read this whole slide, please. But the point I'm making here is it created 7 steps for us: input, tokenization, parsing, calculation, execution, memory update, and display. In reality, there's decades of programming and development that have made each of these steps easier. But even just looking at the display step, so if you have a 4K screen, that means there's about 8 million pixels. Each pixel takes 30 bits to display, meaning that there's roughly 250 million zeros and ones just to display whatever you're seeing on your screen. So that's not including all the processing steps it takes to even get from the computer to the screen. So again, the point I'm really trying to make here is just showing you everything that a computer has to do. To a human, 2 plus 2. We even count on our fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're done, right? Simple for us. For a computer, it has to go through every single one of these steps. It has to take in the input, it has to tokenize it, it has to parse it, it has to do the calculation, it has to execute it, it has to turn around and provide and give it as a memory update, and then display it. So something that simple takes, billions of calculations by a computer. So again, computers are good at doing exactly what you tell it to, but doing it incredibly quickly. So, like I said, that's the frame of mind I want you to be in as we head into dealing with AI and working with ChatGPT. You have to tell it exactly what you want it to do, but it'll do it incredibly quickly. And one of the examples I'm going to use is actually going to make it where I'm going to make ChatGPT do something wrong on purpose, and then I'm going to ask it clarifying questions so you can get to what you want. So you'll see that here in a little bit. Now, before we get into that, I do have to stop for a moment and throw a wet towel on some things here. So the use of artificial intelligence does not excuse you from your responsibility to consumers and other brokers of presenting a true picture of the property in all advertising and marketing. Absolutely, you need to proofread everything that comes out of ChatGPT or any other AI that you're using. And then, of course, copyright could be an hour class all on its own. Honestly, it's a big, complicated subject, especially right now. But the biggest thing is I would always err on the side of caution. For example, the licensing agreement for Microsoft Bing actually says that anything that I create, I have full license to use on anything I want to. But I still took the time to credit them at the beginning of this presentation, and I still have this information on the bottom of every single one of my slides. You see I had a little Bing in the bottom corner there, and then I gave the prompt that I used to do that. So it's a very good, just kind of a best practice to always disclose when you're using AI and to still credit the author, because copyright is a very changing thing right now, but in most cases, you really are okay to use it without going completely overboard. And then finally, I just have a reminder here of the Standards of Practice 1210 from the Code of Ethics that you do have an obligation to avoid manipulating listing and other content in any way that produces a deceptive or misleading result, including the use of misleading images. So with that in mind, now we're going to actually dig into using some ChatGPT. All right. So the example I actually want to start with here is, I'm just going to start new. So the thing I want you to think about when you're thinking of how to utilize ChatGPT, and first off, to get there, it's just chat.openai.com, or just go to openai.com and then you click on ChatGPT, and you sign in with a Google account or anything else. They have a lot of different options. And today you'll notice I'm using the completely free version. This is version 3.5. This is completely free. I'm not paying for anything in anything that we're talking about today. So what I want you to think about when you're thinking about how to utilize ChatGPT is anything you do in your day where you have to sit down and think about what you're going to do, plug it into ChatGPT and see what happens. So the first example I want to use for you is this one here. I'm going to say I have 2 pounds of frozen chicken breast, a 3-pound beef roast, 3 pounds of ground beef, and a dozen eggs. I also have an average collection of seasoning and kitchenware. Using this information, please create a 5-day meal plan to feed 3 people with as few extra ingredients as possible. So this is I'm just asking ChatGPT to create a 5-day meal plan for me. So I'm going to hit enter here, and it's going to run it. And you're going to see it's going to create this 5-day meal plan, and you can see how quickly it's doing it. Now, I don't know if it's going to do it here, but a lot of times, yeah, here we go, it did it. So right here on day 4, it even counted it, or day 3, it said leftover beef roast with roasted vegetables, lunch, leftover ground beef tacos. So it's actually calculating in the background based on 3 people eating how much leftovers it thinks you're going to have. And then sometimes when you do things like this, you'll even see it'll say, okay, now we're going to take the leftover taco meat and we're going to make a taco soup instead. So it actually it calculates for you based on how much information you gave it, what's left over. But you know what? I'm sitting here, I'm looking at this, and the stir fry has noodles in it. And then down here under the tacos, it's talking about using a flour tortilla. So through here, but me and my family, we actually eat a lot more low carb. So I'm gonna now ask ChatGPT. I'm gonna tell it to take that same meal plan, but I want you to make it more keto friendly by replacing ingredients that are high in carbs with lower carb substitutions. So I'm gonna ask it to do that, and it's gonna say, okay, here's a modified version of the plan. So now it's gonna take it, and if I go back up once it's done here. Instead of the noodles, it says serve over cauliflower rice or shirataki noodles. Down here, it says low carb vegetables like Brussels sprouts or green beans, or use cauliflower as a substitute. Coming down a little bit more, it recommends using keto-friendly sauces like soy sauce or sugar-free teriyaki. So you can see it's now gone through that meal plan and replaced it with keto-friendly ingredients for me. Okay, cool. This looks great. This is exactly what I wanted from you, ChatGPT. Thank you. So now I'm going to say, okay, now create a shopping list for me based on that last meal plan. And now it's going to create the shopping list of exactly what I need to go to the store and buy in order to complete this meal plan. So with just that information there, now I can take this list and I can say, okay, I already have my chicken breast, beef roast, ground beef, and eggs. So I already have that at my house. I can mark off the other stuff I already have. And then now I have my shopping list to take to the grocery store with me to buy this. So that's just one like real practical example, right? Every one of us has to plan what we're eating during the week. I mean, it's something every human on the planet does, right? I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're a DoorDash person, you just DoorDash every meal as you feel like it. Maybe this isn't useful for you, I don't know, to each their own. But that's the kind of thing I want you to think about when it comes to ChatGPT, is what is the just, practical things that I can use on a daily basis. So now let's focus on a couple things that are useful for Realtors. So I'm going to click up here. I'm going to start a whole new chat. And the first one I want to do is actually pretty straightforward. So let's say you have a list of names and emails. And that list of name and emails is like name-email. So in what you need is you want to take that list and you want to email the people on it. So let me paste it in here so you can see it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm asking ChatGPT here, please take this list of names and emails and extract only the emails, putting them into a format that can be copied into Gmail without causing errors. Because I don't know, if you guys have ever taken a list like this and you just copy paste it into Gmail or Outlook, it freaks out a little bit, right? Because it tries to make every name into an email, and then the emails are also emails, and it just doesn't work well. So I'm asking it to just take this list of names and emails for me and convert it. And you're going to see what it's going to do is it's going to extract the emails. It's going to put it into this code box. But now you can just take all of these and go straight to Gmail or Outlook with it, copy and paste, and you're done. So this is another just practical example of, instead of you having to go through that list and delete the names and all the stuff that you have to do manually, just plug it into ChatGPT. And you saw in seconds there, it was complete. All right, one more example. And this is something that another way that you can handle ChatGPT. You don't have to have everything in the prompt. You can do what's called pre-prompting. So what I'm going to tell ChatGPT is I'm going to say, in the next prompt, I'm going to paste some data. Please pull out just the addresses from this data and provide it in a list. So I'm going to do that. It's going to say, certainly I can do that for you. And then certainly please go ahead and paste the data. I'll do my best to extract the addresses for you. And the example I'm going to use for you is, I'm over here in SWMLS. I've created a search and I have this list of properties, and I want just the properties off this list to provide to my consumer for whatever reason. Everybody has their own reasons for possibly needing something like this. So I can actually come in here now, and I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to copy. The free version does have a character limit, so I'm just going to do, we'll say, the first 50. I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to come over here to ChatGPT, and I'm just going to paste it in. And if you look at it, it is ugly, right? If you were pasting this into an email, it would take a ton of extra work to get through and clean all this up. But now I'm just going to hit enter, and here we go. ChatGPT is now taking just the addresses out of that list for me and putting them into a nice, easy-to-copy format. So yeah, it actually looks like it just only did the top 25, but that's okay. But now, you know what I'm going to say? ChatGPT, referencing the previous data set, please recreate the list for me, but this time include the prices as well. So now it's going to take that same data set and it's going to pull those addresses out, but this time it's including the prices for me for every single one of these. Now, of course, what are you going to want to do here? You're going to want to go back, double check your data set and make sure these prices are all correct, right? But that's another example of where ChatGPT is taking this just absolute mess of information that I've posted into it and changing it into a nice, readable, easy format for us. So, and then the last thing I want to touch on is, property descriptions. This is the first one that came to mind, and this is talked about quite a bit. And the first thing I always hear from realtors is like, oh, well, you got to be careful because it's going to, put fair housing violations in there. And that's true. It will do that if you don't tell it not to. That's the trick here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a prompt, and I'm going to tell it, you are a realtor with many years of experience. Please write a professional sounding property description for 3704 Cheraz Road, Northeast, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87111. And then I'm going to give it some information about the house. And I don't have to have flowery language here. I'm just plugging in information. It's a 1,900 square foot homes, 3 beds, 2 baths, open concept kitchen, jetted tub, walled backyard with sprinkler system, and essentially ducted evaporative cooling system. There's a great park nearby. So I'm just kind of just plugging just some generic features about the house into there for it to use. Now, this is the trick. I'm going to tell it, please refrain from mentioning any people or characteristics of people. And the reason I say that is the guidance from HUD when it comes to fair housing is always describe the property, not the people. So I'm just straight telling ChatGPT, don't mention people or any characteristics about people. And then I'm also going to tell it that the description should not exceed 800 characters. And spoiler alert, this is the one where it's going to mess up a little bit because what we're doing is, in the MLS, our property public remarks are restricted to 800 characters, right? So I'm going to tell it to do that, and I'm going to hit go. So here we go. Introducing 3704 Cheraz Road Northeast, a splendid residence in the heart of Albuquerque, New Mexico, offering harmonious blend of comfort, and style. So it's this great property description. But what do we notice here? It's something's wrong, right? It did not follow my instruction to exceed 800 characters. So I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to tell ChatGPT, I need the description to be less than 800 characters, including spaces. Let's see if it gets it right this time. And there we go. So now it has corrected it, and it has actually made it less than 800 characters now. So that's what you can do is within any particular chat, you can provide more information to get closer and closer and closer to what you need. So I'm going to do this one more time, but I'm going to do it with a funny one instead. I'm going to tell it to write a humorous property description about a house that is unsafe to enter, has holes in the roof, collapsed floors, and is generally dilapidated. Again, I'm putting do not mention people or characteristics of people, and I'm going to tell it to do 800 characters or less. So let's see what it comes up with here. It's probably going to mess up on the characters again, but I'm going to go into a little more detail with it this time for you. So welcome to Adventure Palace, where every step is a thrilling game of chance. This unique residence offers a dynamic living experience with its avant-garde architecture inspired by Swiss cheese. So, you guys can pause it here and read this more if you want to laugh a little harder because this is where you can have some fun with it, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to dig in a little bit. I'm like, you know what, ChatGPT? In my instructions previously, how are you interpreting the instruction to keep the description to less than 800 characters? I'm just going to ask it. How are you interpreting that, ChatGPT? And it's going to come back and it's going to tell me, I apologize for the oversight. It seems the description I provided exceeded the specified character limit. Here's a revised, more concise version within the 800 character limit. So now it's welcome to Thrill Haven, where living on the edge takes a literal meaning. This avant-garde masterpiece boasts a unique character design with custom skylights, roof holes, for stargazing and open concept living, missing walls. Experience nature intimately through floor vents, collapsed floors. So, you can tell it, this is what's wrong. And now let's have even a little more fun with it. So now let's say, take that same description, but write it in the style of, let's say Alanis Morissette. I don't know if I spelled it correctly, but ChatGPT will get it right. So now I changed it to welcome to the ironic abode, where life's mishaps become the ultimate design feature. This is referring to Alanis Morissette's song, Isn't It Ironic, right? So you can have fun with this stuff. You can tell it to change its tone. You can change it to in the style of a certain person. How about the style of Edgar Allan Poe? Actually, let's back up. How about make it a poem in the style of Edgar Allan Poe and see what it does. In the shadowed realm of Adobe Mysterium, where moonlight weaves through holes so grim, a roof once proud, now a sieve for rain, drops dance with ghosts an eerie refrain. Does that not sound like Edgar Allan Poe? So you can have a lot of fun with this. and just, go through and tell it exactly what you want, what tone you want, what parameters you need it to stick to, and things like that. So, and this is what I recommend when it comes to AI, is get into ChatGPT, use it for things that are just anytime you feel like you have to sit down and think about it. See what it does, play with it, and you'll learn over time the different places and little nuances that you need to prompt it. And the thing that's great about ChatGPT is you don't have to be exact. You can use your own words, and it'll actually learn you over time. Especially as you keep going through a single chat like this, where you have one topic where it's referring back to the same data set you gave it at the beginning, it'll improve and get better. So you can just keep asking it until it's what you want. Then what'll happen is, as you learn this, you'll be like, okay, well now I want to do something where I'm creating an image, or okay, now I want to take this and I want to create a video. And then that's where you'll start to want to use other AI products that specialize in those things. But because you've already now trained yourself on how to speak to AI, it makes it easier to use those other tools, right? So, that's the real practical application to talk about here, is just start with ChatGPT and just learn what it can do, and you'll be surprised, And not everything's gonna work out perfect, right? Sometimes you're gonna plug stuff in and it's not gonna do well, and that's okay, because it took you 2 minutes to do instead. So 2 minutes of your day wasted in terms of what could have saved you 30. Like I've done things like, if anybody's coming to my office, you've noticed there's a sign in my door where I've created this system of how interruptible I am at that moment, right? It says, sometimes I'm recording videos like this. This is what's considered a level 5. Don't open my door because I'm recording a video and I don't want to have to re-record the whole video because I was interrupted, right? So that's a level 5. Level 3 is like, my door might be shut because I'm just trying to focus on something. I have a heavy data project I'm working on. But if something is actually really important, then it's okay to interrupt me. And then level 1 is like, look, I'm wide open, whatever, just interrupt me if you need to. But that was a system that I had kind of had in the back of my head, but if I would have sat down and wanted to think about, what every level would be, what the differences are, what the explanation is, that would have taken me probably 2 hours. I plugged it into ChatGPT and made it a 10-minute project. So, that's an example of the kind of time that you can save yourself as you utilize AI and work through things like that. And then, once you start wanting to expand a little bit more, there's a lot of great tools or websites out there that are doing these kind of things for you. Like popping back over here to my screen share, this is a website called futuretools.io. And then you can come in here and it just helps narrow things down, and people vote on these tools when they've used it successfully. So now let's say you want to get into generative art. You actually want it to generate images for you. You can come in here, and then here's a bunch of different AIs that are doing different things for you when it comes to generating art. You want to come in and, okay, you want to do a little bit more with research. Maybe you're wanting to plug in some market stats data and then get useful stats out of it. It comes in here, has all these different tools in here that are available for you for research or creating different charts for you. Maybe you want to do text to video, so you want to be able to type out what you want and it's going to come in here and create video for you. So, there's lots of other websites out there like this. This is just one example. And once you've learned how to utilize AI using ChatGPT, then you can start to expand into other things. So don't let this get too big for you. Is my real message here. Don't let it be too intimidating, because where this is going is another way to think about this. Go take that list that NAR put out, that 179 ways a realtor is worth every penny. It's a great list. It's an awesome way to talk about your value proposition and help consumers understand why a realtor is worth the commission that they're paid. But one other way you can use that, and this is the way I want you to look at AI. I want you to look at it from two different directions. There's some things that are in a critical thinking bucket. These are places where you have to think through it, you have to make a decision, you have to do things that right now an AI cannot do. And then there's other things that are just process. Emailing a thing, sending something somewhere, pulling some information from something. All of those things are just process. So I want you to take that list of 179 ways a realtor is worth every penny. I want you to take 2 highlighters that are 2 different colors, and I want you to go through that list, and everything that's a process, I want you to highlight 1 color, and everything that's critical thinking, I want you to highlight another color. Anything that you highlight in the process color can probably be handled by AI, and is going to be handled by AI by the people that utilize it. Everything else is that critical thinking piece, that's your value proposition. That is what only a realtor can do. As Marky Lemons Real said at our annual meeting, in every state in the country, in order to be a licensee, you first have to be a human, right? So the things that only a licensee can do, that only a human can do, those are your value proposition off of that list. Everything else on that list under process, you should be looking at ways to help AI let it do it more efficiently. Because I truly am not worried about AI replacing realtors. But realtors will be replaced by realtors using AI. So keep that in mind. Embrace it. Figure out ways to use it. I actually had, after the presentation by Marky, there was a gentleman who's one of our longtime realtors and who struggles with technology at times, and I don't think he's going to know who I'm talking about, and I don't think he would argue with that point. That was just so excited that he came up to me afterwards and was, look, I asked ChatGPT to write a nice letter to my wife for me to send in a text message. So just little things like that, guys, is really where AI can improve your life. And, the best uses of AI are going to be invisible. It's going to be the little foundational stuff that we do in the background that people don't even know that we're using AI, that is drastically improving our efficiency, that free up more time to allow us to do more of those critical thinking, value prop kind of things for people. So I think that's pretty well beating it up for you. I mean, of course, always open for conversations. Support at SWMLS.com down here at the bottom, 505-843-8833. Again, don't be afraid of this. Embrace it and just lean in and just try some things. And it will surprise you, I promise. So thank you all. Have a great day. Reach out if you have any questions. And let's just all embrace this AI journey together as we move through it. Lots of opportunities. Thanks.